I'm hoping you'll indulge me for a minute. So on your tables, you have a little pad of paper and some pencils and pens. And if you would, just take a moment to each take a piece of paper and write your name on it. And then I'd like you to write down a number. I want you to give your best guess as to how much investment is going on in the city of Elyria between 2016 and 2020. 2016 and 2020. Now, please participate. There are prizes involved here. So make sure you write your name down on it, write down your number, fold it up, and just hold on to that for a minute. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you to the Chamber, thank you to Rotary, and thank you to all of my friends and colleagues. We appreciate your participation. And I hope you enjoyed some of the pictures up here. This was an amazing year for the city of Elyria. It was our bicentennial celebration. In 2017, we were 200 years old. We're already into our 201st year, but we had an opportunity to work with a lot of folks, and I'm going to talk about that near the end of it, but I also want to recognize John and Wendy Beckett, who are here, who've been also silent partners in this, and we appreciate their attendance. Let's give them a round of applause. I'd also like to recognize my coworkers. Would you please stand up, the employees of the city of Elyria? Nobody does this job alone. And I've got one of the best teams ever, my husband, Greg, who is also part of the team, whether he likes it or not. So as I said, 2017 was quite a year. And I'm going to start with a little story. So I was at one of my favorite diners, maybe in December, and it was after a long year, a good year, but a long year, and I was kind of tired. It was cold outside. And I'm sitting at a table, and a gentleman sits down next to me with a newspaper, and he puts it down, and he looks at me, and he tips his glasses, and he says, "Mayor, does anything good ever happen in the city of Elyria?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, what do you think?" And he went on for a while about potholes and other things. And I listened, and I was not in a very good mood that day, I have to admit it. So I just paid his bill and left. And if you're in this room, don't worry, I'm not going to rat you out. But the point of this was, it got me to thinking. And you know, Greg and I have a lot of kids. And we always tried to stress the glass being half full. And it reminded me of a birthday party we had once where we spent a lot of time on this birthday party. We had, you know, crafts and scavenger hunts and cake. And at the end, we finally had some ice cream. And the child, who I will not name at this time, came up after about 7 hours and after setting up a tent with s'mores, and he said, "You forgot the chocolate syrup on the ice cream." And I looked at him and I said, "Really? After all this, you're worried about the chocolate syrup on the ice cream?" I said, "Did anything happen today that you liked?" And he started rattling off the things. I said, "You know, this is a life lesson. You know, maybe you should worry less about the chocolate ice cream and all the wonderful things that happened today." And it reminded me of that scenario, because I think sometimes, you know, we get stuck on the negative when 90% of the things happen during the day are positive, and we end up focusing on something that might not be as positive. So that's one of the things I want to talk about today. I had to do a little exercise. And, you know, I got to thinking, what would have changed that gentleman's lens? It probably wouldn't have been the bicentennial, because we just went through that for 12 months. Maybe it was money. So in answer to that question, at least in part, there's a lot of other good things that really happen in the city of Elyria. and I would really encourage all of us to think about the positive things that happen. We have a situation where, we've got a lot going on in our community. If you would humor me a moment, could everybody just stand? So if you think that investment that you wrote down on your sheet of paper is $100 million or less, please sit down. If you think that investment is $200 million or less, please sit down. If you think that investment is $300 million or less, please sit down. If you think that investment is $350 million or less, please sit down. If you think that investment is $400 million or less, stay standing. Because we are at somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 million. And I'm going to talk to you about how that's happening. And by the way, for those of you who stood standing, we have some prizes for you. Who is the closest to 400 million? Who had $400 million? Okay. See, Mrs. Hawes, afterwards we have a gift basket of Bicentennial items. And if you were in that neighborhood, you can have a beer mug too. So, it's amazing, but it's just a reminder of some of the amazing things that are happening in our community, and I think sometimes we need to be reminded. First of all, I'm not sure there's another city in the state of Ohio that can say this. But when you look at the current investment, our public school system is about to rebuild itself. It's quite remarkable, and Dr. Jama's here and his staff. I'd like them to stand up. I'd like us to give them a round of applause. It just doesn't happen. There are folks that have to make these issues happen, and we've got a lot of positive people in the school district working with others to make these things happen, and I think that this is going to be transformational for our community. We have a new library facilities coming. Lynn Krause, are you here? I know you're here. Stand up. Let's give Lynn and her library folks a round of applause. Amazing. Amazing. Refurbished neighborhood parks. Thank you to the citizens of Elyria for issue 6, because there's a huge capital investment coming to many components of our city, but one of the major renovations is our neighborhood parks. So east, north, west, and south are all getting major renovations, and we'll talk about those a little bit more. As you know, we have a new partnership with our metro parks, and both Cascade and Eelywood. Is Jim here? Jim Zimnick? Okay, Jim couldn't be here today, but he's been working with us. There's about $7.4 million of investment in Cascade and Eelywood parks. Issue 6 again, through 2020, we'll be looking at $7 million of road or street improvements, resurfacing, and replacement in the city of Elyria. We're expanding our police force and providing new equipment, which I added up here. It's not really infrastructure, but it's important to everything that we're doing in terms of safety. Major road, bridge, and sewer improvements, $67.1 million. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those major projects that you've probably been seeing. Downtown public and private investment projects, $36.8 million. And I do want to recognize our county commissioners. If Ted, Lori, and Matt, please stand. They have done an amazing job of working with us folks to return passenger rail to downtown Elyria. And I think they deserve a round of applause. It's not a silver bullet, but it's certainly going to help. And the courthouse renovation is pretty good too, by the way. Midway area investment, $16.8 million, and this does not include the State Route 57 49th Street Bridge. I'll get more into some detail about some of these projects. We do have about $30.6 million of other industry business expansion in the city, and unprecedented probably in quite a while is new homes and condos. There's about $59 million of investment either happening now or about to happen in the city of Elyria, and I'll talk about some of those as well. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of good things happening in the city of Elyria. There's some things about to happen in the city of Elyria as well. As you may have read about, there's 36 acres being annexed to the city of Elyria from Eaton Township. The Chestnut Commons area, you may or may not know, Chestnut Commons is in the city of Elyria to the left, but if you look to the right, that is Eaton Township. We have been working with a developer and have seen development plans, quite honestly, all the way to I-480. There has been an annexation take place of that property, or at least partly of that property right now. And the city of Elyria will be working with that developer. It's going to present some challenges that I'll talk about a little bit later, but it's certainly going to be, represent some tax growth for the city of Elyria. The mall area development at State Route 57 and the 49th Street Bridge, there is property on both sides of that has now become available for further development. The city's in the process of finishing up appraisals and title searches on that, and we're going to be issuing requests for proposals on that property very shortly. So you're going to see some development there. We've also, our Community Improvement Corporation has inherited the Mountain Jacks property. It was donated to us, and a request for proposals will be going out on that property as well. We're trying to attract a higher end party center, a place for folks to have weddings and conferences and those types of things in that space. And then there are 4 downtown projects currently in the exploratory phase that we're hoping, if they happen, will really make a difference in our downtown. We're looking at some potential residential expansion of Valley of the Eagles property. And I'll talk a little bit about the improvements to the golf course and the clubhouse in a little bit. And we do have 2 major industry expansions that will be announced later this spring. So lots of things happening. When you look at what's currently happening and what we know is going to happen, if it's in process, we are looking at over $400 million. And that is a very conservative number. And we're going to tell people about it. One of the things that Issue 6 did was allow us to begin to take a more aggressive approach to economic development and marketing. And you're going to begin to see Elyria tell its story all over Northeast Ohio and beyond. And we're pretty excited about it. And it's not just the city. The city's representing all of those organizations that we just talked about who are doing such great work. Just an example, as I said, the school district will be transformational. Ely Stadium, I think that the front page has the crane out today. And I also saw it over at the Spring Valley field as well, so it's starting. The Ohio School Facilities Commission has provided a very significant match, which is beginning to make all these things happen, as well as very strong taxpayer support. Downtown investments, you've probably seen it, a little frustrated sometimes with all those orange barrels, but we have received federal funding to replace all of our streetscapes and lighting and some other amenities down there, and it's beginning to look a lot better in our downtown, which we think will make it even more attractive for further business development. The new Middle Avenue, the renovations to East Avenue, 3rd, East Bridge, parts of West Avenue and Lake Avenue are all enhancing the core downtown area. 3rd Street was a major project this summer, and that is going to be a major improvement as well. Again, we're excited about the renovation of the courthouse, the return of passenger rail. Pioneer Plaza, you saw some of those beautiful pictures. That was made possible through a state appropriation. Our new Elyria Arts Council, we've got over 35 working artists in that building right now. And a new law office is going up in downtown Elyria. Other investment, the Foundry Restaurant is doing well. We have more law offices coming in downtown Elyria. There's some renovation happening. We have a new bridal shop that's going to be opening up in the next few weeks on the square in downtown Elyria. It's been a long time since we had that type of business, but we're very excited about it, so I hope you will patronize it. Elyria is going through a major renovation. That is going to be new office space. The Rendezvous Cafe has been purchased, and that has already completed. It's being leased. It's a brand new retail space in downtown Elyria. Oven 51 opened, and we've got 4 additional buildings that were purchased that are in various stages of renovation with businesses pending. So the critical capacity downtown is beginning to happen. And it's taken a while, but it is definitely beginning to happen. These are some of the renovation photos. The Ely Inn, honestly, I wasn't sure if it was savable. I went through it myself, but we have an ambitious contractor out of Vermillion who's doing some work, and it's going to be an amazing office space right across the street from the transportation center. Mall area investment, some of you probably read about some of these things, but the mall was sold to Namdar over the summer, and that sale did not include Macy's, Dillard's, or Sears. So we have been working, our Community Improvement Corporation and the city have been working on those spaces that were not part of the sale. We have been able to return Macy's to productive use. You'll see that work happening with an opening this spring. It's a power sports headquarters for a regional business that we think will bring some outsiders into Lorain County. So it's a business that can't be duplicated. Walmart has been purchased to become an automotive parts distribution center. That business will not open till next year, but the renovation is planned for later this year. Designer Fashion Warehouse has taken over Office Max, Courtyard by Marriott Hotel. The new manager's here. You want to wave? Very good. They'll be opening in May, and we're excited to have that here. And again, we're working on the Mountain Jacks property right now as well. We have been, we're pleasantly surprised. Sometimes Sears holds onto their properties, but we have been working with Colliers International on both the Sears and the Sears Automotive buildings. And I am happy to say that there is very strong interest. In fact, the city's been very busy over the last 3 weeks in conversations with folks, and I would predict that at least one of those buildings is going to sell very shortly. So again, that's a very positive thing. We are working, Dillard's is in some litigation right now. We are involved with that and some code enforcement, but it's on our radar screen, and we do want to help return that property to productive use as well. Again, we have RFPs out on that property that's being freed up around the bridge. And we do have developer interest in a higher end apartment complex out there that we are working with someone on right now. Valley of the Eagles, a lot of people ask me about Valley of the Eagles. Our golf course is open. They're currently selling individual and corporate memberships. They hope to open the courthouse in 2018, pending some additional renovations. And they're in preliminary discussions with the city about residential housing phase of this. So those pieces are not included in some of the residential housing I'm going to be talking about that are coming. This is an exciting new development for Elyria. Hovanian Homes is going to be bringing a brand new subdivision to Elyria. It is a 4 Seasons at Chestnut Ridge residential subdivision. There's 214 homes for seniors age 55 and up, so if you're tired of mowing your lawn, like I am. But it will include a clubhouse, an outdoor swimming pool, walking trails, tennis courts, pickleball, snow removal, and lawn care. And it'll be a really nice feature for the city of Elyria. It's going to be off of Chestnut Ridge, right before Bender Road at the Elyria, within the Elyria limits. But I would keep that on our radar screen, and the houses will sell between $189 and $220, and that's without basements. If you want a basement, it's a little bit more. We also have new condominiums coming to the downtown area. We have cottages at Riverview. We'll be building 62 cottage-style rental homes for residents 55 and up at the old fairgrounds property. So we are excited about having more folks living close to the downtown proximity. It's walkable. It will be connected by walking trails to all of the amenities in downtown Elyria, and we think it's going to be a really nice addition. In terms of new home and condominiums, 22 condominium homes, 5 and 4 plexes, 36 additional homes, and 325 additional homes and condos to start in 2018. It's been a long time in the city of Elyria since that happened. We do have some business highlights. We have expansions right now at Duraline, Multilink, Ridge Tool, and Elyria Plastics eventually. We have new businesses, Perry Fiberglass, Roof US, Courtyard by Marriott, Johnny K's Power Sports, Friendship Plaza, Valley of the Eagles, Altitude Trampoline, Designer Fashion Warehouse, Car Parts Warehouse, and there's some smaller businesses too, not up there, but we are seeing a little bit of an uptick right now in some of our business expansions. We have something here that's taken a long time, and I want to say, that this pile of mud right here is the most beautiful muddy lot I've ever seen in my life. And the reason I say that is because this is the new General Industries property. As you may recall, General Industries burnt down in 7 or 8, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency came in and did $1 million cleanup, but they left a little over $700,000 of cleanup in the city's lap. And so it's taken a while, but I am happy to say the property has been completely remediated. We were able to leverage funds from the Clean Ohio Fund. We got some in-kind services from the Ohio and US EPA, and we were able to leverage grants from Jobs Ohio. And as a result, the property has been fully remediated. The only thing left to do is grate the property and remove the fence this spring. And then a transaction will take place for an expansion with a neighboring business, Elyria Plastics. So I'm very pleased that I'm sorry it took so long, but we got it done. And I think it's going to be an important step for the neighboring businesses in the community. There was great concern on behalf of some of those larger employers about having to look at what they described as a third world building. And they don't have to look at that anymore. So we're very happy about that. We did have, unfortunately, a business closing. In November of 2016, 3M announced they would close the Elyria plant. During the months of December 16 through the March 17, while we were informed they were closing no matter what, and the city was not given an opportunity to interface, honestly, we didn't take no for an answer because you can't. So we did enlist the help of the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs to try to mediate. We spoke with some of the neighboring states who were within their supply chain. And I ended up having to sign a non-disclosure agreement as a condition to converse with the 3M executives in Minneapolis. So I can't share all the details, but regardless, they didn't change their position. But as Mayor Rittenauer said in his speech last week, he took a moonshot. Our moonshot was, we went to the mat for this. We made the front page of the Wall Street Journal for the strong incentives that the city offers, not only through that process, but others that we have, and for reaching out on a national basis. Now, a lot of people will say, well, why didn't you do more? I will tell you, in doing this for 7 years, what I've discovered is sometimes you can we always try to do more. But sometimes decisions are made by global headquarters. The folks at the 3M plant in Elyria had no idea this was about to happen. In fact, 3M had actually purchased hundreds of acres of property to expand their buffer zone for a potential expansion, and the city was involved in holding community dialogue sessions for them. So it wasn't a question of the city not communicating. In fact, their own management team there had no idea. So in some cases, it's a little bit more difficult than others. But the good news is we're currently working with Elyria Realty Advisors in a business attraction effort for the building. Again, like the Sears building, this building is getting a lot of very high interest. I've had 4 meetings about this building in the last 2 weeks. So that's really, really good news. It had some remediation that had to take place, but it's ready. We did put in an application for medical marijuana. Like Lorraine, we were not chosen as one. We do have a couple of licenses still pending, so we'll see. And we've got some other challenges. We did end the 2017 year with a $1.6 million carryover. That's not a lot of money for a city our size, and given the fact we budgeted up to $50,000, I was glad we were able to do that. But Issue 6 has been helpful, very much needed and appreciated in terms of doing some things we haven't been able to do in a long time related to residential road resurfacing and increasing our police force and putting capital improvements forth. The dilemma is the general fund is still strained. And I think one of the reasons Issue 6 passed was it wasn't for personnel largely. The problem is it does take personnel to get all this stuff done. And right now in the city of Elyria, we still have 26 open positions. So the folks who are working in the city of Elyria to get this work done are working very hard. Not that they aren't always working hard, but it's tough. We're working very lean. We do see continued growth in the Chestnut Commons area, as I explained, with Hovanian Homes in back of there, as well as the retail and commercial development to the right coming. That is going to make the traffic situation even more complex than it is right now. But we're hoping with the annexation that it will give Elyria a little bit more clout to lead the way as it relates to remediating that traffic situation. We do have a traffic study. There are several options to fix it. It's going to cost $7 million. And what we want to make sure of is that we know exactly what the plans are and we take the right steps to look at the long run. If we did it now, we don't have the final plans for that annexation property. So we want to make sure that we are seeing what's going to happen and anticipating that before we actually make the move to remediate the traffic situation. We do have a problem. We have people that continue to hit the lights on State Route 57. And while I didn't design this, we do need to fix it. It is resulting in low or no lighting. Those poles take like 3 months to get when you have to reorder them. So one of the things we're looking at is possibly, and we're looking at whether or not we meet the federal lighting standards if we were to remove every other pole, put them in safekeeping so that one comes down, we don't have to order a new one, but we can replace it with one that's been taken down, and then replace them with brighter LED lights. So we are working on that. It is a little bit of a problem. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the opioid crisis in the city of Elyria. It's not, Elyria is no different than any other community in this country, but with the nexus of our highways that make us so strong in other respects, it also makes us vulnerable in other respects too. We have, you can see kind of the magnitude in 2017, there were 1,427 more medical responses by our fire department, largely because of this issue. The police department handled 210 drug overdose cases, 31 deaths, and confiscated almost $500,000 in illegal drugs. Narcan is less effective now because the opiates are stronger and the users are more resistant, and it's really a problem. And we're starting to put local responses in place, which I think is positive. Elyria will sell its health department building to an organization that provides transitional housing and access to support and treatment. We have joined a class action lawsuit against the pharmaceuticals and drug distributors to help hold them accountable. The county commissioners are looking at transforming the former Golden Acres to an addiction treatment center via a state appropriation. We appreciate their help with that. And then a new county-wide multi-foundational community coalition is developing a strategic and integrated response to the problem that we appreciate, and we're hoping it happens sooner than later. From a business perspective, we do need more business and industry retention, expansion, and attraction to grow our tax base. A lot of our industries are having difficulty filling positions, especially manufacturing, skilled trades, and healthcare. And even with many industries, including manufacturing, having available entry-level positions, Elyria still has a poverty rate of 22.2%, which is way too high. So we've been talking as a community about trying to address the root cause of this problem. We were fortunate enough to leverage the support of the Bloomberg Foundation. They brought in facilitators into the city. We convened a lot of folks in this room, actually. And we've been talking about what to do about this problem. We have citizen support for economic development, so we're putting some additional things in place. We are in the process of updating our economic development plan, hiring an economic development director, conducting outreach to all the major industries, updating our incentives, and we're trying to do as much as we can to remove barriers to industry expansion and creating workforce development programs. This is a new initiative that we're going to be launching in the next month in the city of Elyria. It's called Elyria Works Now. You're going to start seeing it in the newspaper and lots of other places. But it really is designed to lower Elyria's poverty rate by 5% and close the employment gap between companies facing labor shortages and residents who are underemployed or actively seeking work. And it's comprised of a new collaboration of industry, education, government, nonprofit, for-profit, and faith-based stakeholders. And we're really banding together in a different way to provide connectivity, support, education, and access to these jobs and training. We've been meeting for several months. We did design the project around a Bloomberg grant potential, and we decided up front that if we didn't get the grant but benefited from the facilitators, we were going to do the project anyway, and that's what we're going to do. But basically, pilot employers commit to employment goals, screen in policies, family-friendly practices, and working with community partners to kind of integrate wraparound services responding to career plans. And we're targeting certain populations, graduating or recently graduated high school seniors without career plans, underemployed adults, or those actively seeking work. And we estimate that number is about 3,482 folks out of the over 11,000 living in poverty in the city. These are our partners right now. We welcome additional folks to this initiative. So if you have a company that you think it could benefit from these services, please call. Or if you would like to join our team, we'd love to have you as well. We're also trying to remove barriers for employers and others by having a conversation about transportation. This is one of the top concerns that we get from citizens and employers is the lack of public transportation options. We are exploring with VIA an on-demand shared ride service transit system in Elyria. If we can figure out a sustainable business model that citizens would be able to request shared rides through a mobile app. And VIA's sophisticated algorithm instantly finds a vehicle that best matches your route. This is what's being done in some of the larger cities in the country. VIA is actually looking for a mid-sized city to be a pilot, and Elyria does fit the profile that they're looking for. I had the benefit of experiencing VIA in some of the cities my own children live in. Los Angeles, Australia, they have it in various parts of the world, and it's very successful, actually. We view this, if we're able to do it, as a service, as a way to augment, not supplant, current transportation options in and outside Lorain County, including connecting to existing public transit, both inside and outside the county. And public transit systems use VIA to better connect or augment their existing systems. So it's not one or the other. It can be a connectivity tool, and we are sharing this information with Lorain County Move in anticipation of a pilot expanding. So we're hoping that this can be a possible solution for us. It's our moonshot this year. We may not be able to make this viable, but we're going to try. VIA would supply and maintain the software, vehicles, and workforce hiring from within Elyria. The city doesn't really want to get into a fleet kind of situation. The business model would require this operation to be a public-private partnership, so it would not be funded exclusively by the city of Elyria. And we would be looking for employers, major institutions, nonprofits, and others to participate to help subsidize the fee that people would pay, in addition to possibly some sandbox or other types of categorical money through federal transportation dollars. It's anticipated that if we were at full implementation, a city the size of Elyria would need 13 vehicles running on demand 16 hours per day, which would cost about $1 million. So it would be, again, it's not $1 million necessarily out of the city's pocket, but there are ways to build a business model to make this happen. And what we're doing right now is trying to figure out what that looks like. And if you're if you're an employer, you will be contacted shortly. We are surveying to see if there is capacity in the community, so please respond. Like I said, we may or may not. This is where it's happening right now. The closest city in size for this is West Sacramento, California. They're very similar to the city of Elyria in terms of size, and they're a good model. But it can be efficient, and it's a subsidized way to do something that we haven't been able to do before. We've also got some other projects. We hired our first human resource director position in the history of the city. As you can, I can't imagine, but we never had one. And 460 employees in an organization without an HR director is not a good thing. So it was finally funded, and we have a position. And we're doing a lot of work right now just to look at our employment practices, job descriptions, classifications, salary schedules, and all those things that haven't been done in a really long time. We do have a new website coming in a few months. We're working on it right now. A company called Revise is working with us. It will be interactive, easy to use. You'll be able to do online registration, complaint components. There's an events calendar for the community, video tours, and a really cool feature is there's some software attached that includes an economic development site selector. So if you are somebody looking for a site anywhere in the United States, there's going to be some tools attached that are really going to be helpful for you. We are in the midst of a new water meter replacement project, and you probably heard about this a little bit through the newspaper, but it is necessary, long time coming. It will replace both the industrial, commercial, and residential meters. We're about 71% through the commercial meter replacement process. And we'll be replacing 21,500 residential meters this spring. Folks will be contacted through all the traditional methods, and it's going well. It's going well, but you know, this is certainly going to be helpful from the consumer and from the business standpoint for us. It transmits readings directly to the customer services department in our utilities department, so it provides more accurate readings, eliminates estimated usage reports. If you get an estimated bill, you won't get that anymore, which is great. It'll help identify leaks and water main breaks in real time, which is going to be cost effective for everybody. And it will reduce or eliminate the need to do on-site readings. So there's an economy of scale and some efficiencies with that as well. We have also replaced the police department's dispatch system and radio, so that's been a major upgrade for our police department. It's been a long time coming. Our Parks Department has been very busy with some improvements that they haven't been able to make in a very long time, as well as some purchases of capital. So you can see a list here, a new Zamboni, demolition of the South Pool, repairs at the West Park Recreation Center, basketball courts. Just a lot of major improvements. This is one of the more fun ones. 2 new splash pads are being built in the city. They were completed last fall, and they'll open up for the first time this spring. So our kids are going to be able to enjoy some features that they haven't been able to enjoy before. This happens to be the one at West Park, and we've also got one at South Park. North Park is getting some upgrades to the locker rooms. North Park is a very busy place because of the ice arena. It is it's the only profit center for Parks and Rec in the city. A lot of folks use our ice arena, inside and outside the city. So it's important for us to maintain that. I'm really happy to report that thanks to a lot of hard work by our staff members, we are cleaning up our neighborhoods. And the city of Elyria just last week took down our 270th nuisance property. And we only have, I think, 25 left. So we have made real progress on this. And Mr. Brubaker, wherever you are, thank you. He's been very involved. It's been funded through the land bank at the county level, but also our NSP program locally as well. These are, Elyria is an entitlement city. We do receive federal block grant dollars, and these are some of the improvements that we use with that money. You can see that we did 10 home emergency repairs. We have grants to rehabilitate homes, and our neighborhood stabilization program is used in part for some of those demolitions. Some very, very big infrastructure projects happening in the city of Elyria. This happens to be improvements to our water plant dewatering facility on Lake Erie. This is more improvements at our wastewater treatment plant off of Gulf Road. You may or may not remember, but since 1970, the city of Elyria has been under a US EPA consent judgment to comply with the Clean Water Act. And right now, the city of Elyria is in negotiations with the US EPA to develop a revised consent decree to mitigate overflows to the Black River. The first 2 projects as a result of that, which is, they're probably 12, this is the first 2, are underway right now. And they involve the Eastside Relief Sewer and the East Avenue Relief Sewer, and the cost for those 2 projects is $15,243,000. So if the $43, you get to that point. But if you look at some of those projects, unless you look down, you really don't realize the magnitude of it. It's quite remarkable. These are major, major projects. And I won't dwell on them, but you can see the depth. There is substantial disruption as part of them, but they are necessary. And in addition to mitigating the water overflow to the Black River, these improvements are definitely going to help at the residential level with flooding in a lot of areas of our city. So there is definitely a local benefit to this as well. These are some of our other projects. This is the Morgan Avenue Water Main project, the West Side Water Main project. We've got a lot of pavement preservation going on, so all of this wonderful money going into our roads and streets doesn't go to waste if you preserve the pavement. So we're trying to do that as much as possible. These were some of the projects this year in terms of road repaving. We are looking at over $7 million of road repaving through 2020, so this is just the very beginning. One of the challenges, again, is we've got the money, but it takes folks to get this done, so we're not able to do it as fast as we'd like. So I'm just reassuring you, it will get done. Please be patient. It will get done. This was an improvement. We had the resurfacing of Gulf Road, and Gulf Road did finally reopen as when we got done with some of that sewer construction right now. This is Hampton Drive reconstruction that took place over the summer. We are replacing concrete in some areas of the city that's been failing. Carroll Lane, Ashland, Fairmount, Lorraine Boulevard. Our fire department, again, very busy place. 1,467 more emergency medical responses, largely because of the opioid crisis. Our fire department staff did receive accolades from Metro Health's Excellence in Emergency Medical Service Award this year, and I think we should give them a round of applause. We were also able to replace one of our fire engines with Issue 6 funds. Police department. It's taken them 3 years, but it's a very arduous process, and Chief Whiteley's here. I am so proud to share with you today that we have received CALIA accreditation. This is from the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. We received the official accreditation in July. The department has been working on it for 3 years. Only 7% of police agencies in the United States of America receive this accreditation. Let's give our police department a round of applause. They're the first in Lorain County to receive it as a local law enforcement agency. And it really sets the gold standard for public safety policies, procedures, services, and management practices. So you can be reassured that you are in very good hands with the Elyria Police Department. It also has some other benefits too, and if you have a chance to talk with Chief Whiteley after this, he'll tell you that when you reach that high and reach these level of national standards, it also opens some doors in terms of grant dollars and other opportunities for training. So we're very pleased that they were able to do that. Some other things, they also received the AAA Traffic Safety Gold Award. We almost become to expect it now, but we shouldn't. These are some of the statistics similar to last year. You can see some of those numbers that I referenced earlier, but you know, the opioid crisis does impact crime and other of these statistics all over the city, for sure. And just the street value of confiscated drugs at almost, $454,000 tells a story. And there's lots of hours attached to that. We have been hiring. In 2017, we hired 6 additional officers, and since then, we've hired 10. The goal is to get to 90. We've had 7 retirements and 10 resignations, so we're at 84. So we're still working at the 90. One of the challenges is recruiting folks who want to be police officers in this environment. And I will tell you, if you have family members or friends who are interested in serving in this capacity, it's a very rewarding, it's a tough, but it's a very rewarding job, and we would welcome their application. So we're working at it. We're able to replace 25% of their fleet. Again, the new radio system and station repairs. We've got some improvements to our cemeteries. Sometimes people forget Elyria has cemeteries, but Brookdale has seen the installation of a new columbarium, some improvements to the roadways, the Veterans Memorial, and some new signage. And we were part of the Wreaths Across America project, so it was very beautiful. And it was a wonderful way to honor our veterans in the city of Elyria, to have folks come out and honor their memory with a wreath and a beautiful ceremony. We have been able to build a new salt shed. We've got a temporary port structure that was built to help protect some of these trucks and other vehicles that we've been able to purchase as a result of Issue 6. We still need the replacement of a central maintenance garage. There are new EPA requirements, and you can't just, I saw a letter to the editor the other day, why don't you just use one of these empty plants? It's not that simple. There are EPA requirements that are a necessity in the building to be able to wash vehicles and other things. So those are things we need to pay attention to. It's a major overall project that's going to save the city a lot of money, but we're installing a new phone system. Now that doesn't sound very exciting, but there's a 74% savings in our phone bills as a result of this, and we're doing this internally. So Mrs. Saworkas helped head this up with our communications department, and she's done a great job. We have a team approach to our problem solving internally, so we have a water team, and our water team folks have been working very hard on a number of these projects, including the water meter replacement project and some other things. Water distribution, you see those guys out there fixing things in all kinds of weather, so I hope you wave at them and smile. But we had 279 repairs, some of which are in the worst weather you can imagine. Which brings me to all this other stuff that's been happening in the city. I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about our Bicentennial. We had over 100 volunteers. Many of you, if you volunteered on the Bicentennial, would you please stand up? Let's give these ladies a round of it, and gentlemen a round of applause. But these folks and their organizations and others help fund and sponsor 24 bicentennial events, activities, and legacy projects. Over $700,000 in grants and philanthropic funds helped make these possible. No city dollars were spent. This was the community coming together. And we're estimating that we had about 60,000 participants and thousands more touched by some of the things that were done as part of the Bicentennial. Why'd we do it? It's just a birthday party. Well, it wasn't. It was an opportunity to recognize Elyria's historic past appropriately and to really lay the groundwork for our future. And I think community pride has grown as a result of it. And we're very glad that we spent the time doing it, even though we were trying to do it on top of all these other things we're doing. And many of you, hopefully you got to see some of the sponsorship lists up there. I can't go through everybody, but many, many people in this room were involved in other ways, and we really appreciate all your help. These gives you an idea of some of the folks who contributed. I don't expect you to read those, but these were our bicentennial chairs for each one of our committees. Discount Drug Mart was the official souvenir, so you see the pins on your tables. You can thank them. Those were leftovers. They not only funded all the merchandise that was sold where the money came back to the fountain, but they also paid for everything. So there was complete profit on behalf of all of that to go back to that project, which was wonderful. And they donated back those items, so everything that you're getting today are part of the donation. But we really appreciate all those folks' support. Beckett Corporation and Lorraine County Solid Waste stepped up for our wonderful documentary as well. These are our other sponsors, and we just really appreciate, none of this would have happened without all of these folks coming together to help support the Bicentennial. So every year I have the opportunity, we started a tradition of giving a key to the city. And last year, we honored the Lorraine County Historical Society and Bill Bird for their role in this, and we would like to do that again. Our first recipient was Reverend Father Charles Diedrich for his efforts with the warming shelters in the city, Greg Wiley with Friendship APL for taking the role to help the city with animal protection, and our spay-neuter release program, Mr. Bird. And by the way, that kitty there is an APL project. His name is Salem. He's a hard-to-place animal that happens to belong to me because I take them all. Salem has HIV. And if you don't know anything about cats with HIV, it is not contagious to dogs or humans or any other animal other than cats. And they can only give it to other cats when they are an aggressive cat and they bite them directly in the bloodstream. So they have a whole room of HIV-positive cats that are hard to displace. If you like cats, go get one. He's one of the best pets I ever had. Had to do it. So it is my very high privilege to present who he didn't know. You know, I cannot believe we kept this a secret this whole time. But John Beckett just happens to be my neighbor, too, I have to confess. I've known John over 30 years. He's seen me at every phase, from the time we were moving in or building our house, where he was watching me sit on the sidewalk with a picnic lunch with my babies, to me out in my yard in my pajamas picking up my newspaper. To now. And he has been a silent partner to the city of Elyria, as he always is. He's just there doing the right thing. He doesn't do it for the attention. He just does it to do the right thing. And when we got to discussing the Bicentennial, it was so interesting because Greg and I just happened to be at dinner one night at their house. And Greg and John started talking about history, and the history of Elyria started coming up. I had no idea that John Beckett had this level of knowledge about the city of Elyria's history. And I just happened to look up and say to him, John, would you like to be part of the Bicentennial? And he said, yeah, I'm sure there's something I can do. Well, John got very involved. He helped us develop the Bicentennial documentary, Making History Then and Now, which is going to be a valuable tool for our kids and education and the library system. So that will live on forever. He's also been a very generous contributor to our fountain. But more importantly, he's just been there all along, being Elyria's cheerleader. And sorry, I have to hold my microphones. Greg, can you pull this out? Thank you. John, if you could come up, it would be my privilege to present to you. And Wendy, yeah. Oh, come on. Come on. Thank you so much.
That's really
Thank you.
special. Very, very special.
We're very lucky to have this treasure in our community.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words, John?
That's dangerous.
Here, go ahead.
Well, surprised, a bit overwhelmed, but I'm very grateful. And how many, you did your little quiz earlier, but how many of you have lived all your life in Elyria? Well, I have the privilege of being in those ranks myself, and so seeing all of these changes over so many years has just been amazing. And I think the presentation this afternoon, should encourage us that this city is moving in some remarkable and dramatic ways. It really is a rebirth, and to see that happening as we've completed our bicentennial and moving forward should just encourage us all. Very special to be a resident and part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, again, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. Mr. Young?
Mayor, you talked about investment in the city, but about 1/3 of it was private sector investment, the rest was public sector investment. What's a reasonable ratio for investments? Should it be 3-to-1? Should it be 1-to-1?
You know, I would answer it this way. I think Elyria has not taken proactive steps over a long period of time to cultivate private investment. We've been trying to do that over the last 7 years, and we finally have the funds to be able to be more aggressive to do it. But I think one of the primary things that you saw in this presentation is the incredible investment in infrastructure. Infrastructure investment is fundamental to additional private investment. And the city of Elyria is doing everything it can to make sure that we're removing barriers through infrastructure improvements for company retention and expansion. So one of the things that we've done is we have reached out to our employers. We've talked with them about some of their employment barriers and needs. One of the first things we recognized several years ago was there were some infrastructure issues that were relative to their expansion. So for example, water pressure was an issue over in the area where Ridge Tool and Elyria Plastics and some of those other companies are. That's one of the highest producing business revenue areas in the city. And that was one of the first infrastructure improvement projects we took on because we wanted to make sure that those companies had the advantage that they needed. So it is not a process that happens overnight, but I do believe that we're moving in the right direction. We do have 2 announcements that will be coming shortly. The city's been working with some folks on some business expansions in addition to the ones that you saw up here. And I think that, we can feel a difference right now. We can definitely feel a difference in the inquiries, the fact that we've got such strong interest in the former 3M plant. We've had some interest in the Riddell building. We've had interest in the Sears building. I wasn't sure that was going to happen with those closings, but I'm pretty confident based on the interaction that we're having with our real estate partners that those properties are going to be returned to productive use. And I would venture to guess maybe as soon as this year. So, I think that we would certainly like to have more. But I think we are, we're doing other things too. So for example, unfortunately, we live in an environment where cities do have to provide incentives. And while our tax base is very important to us, because of the way jobs, I'm not being critical, but it's just a reality. The state does incentivize business movement and development. Team NEO does incentivize it. Local municipalities incentivize it. If we don't play that game, we don't win. And so we do have to, unfortunately, play that game. But, so for example, Elyria does have tools in place. We have a community reinvestment areas, we have enterprise zone areas, we have TIFs, we have, we've offered capital lease finance, and we offer all kinds of things. But in terms of business retention, if we don't do it and we play hardball with regard to business expansion for existing businesses, we run at risk of losing that tax base altogether. What we're finding is that there are local companies with local roots who are still committed. We also have local companies who've been sold to owners outside of this country. And sometimes you have board of directors making decisions about companies that are not even in the United States of America. And so you have to keep that in mind when you're framing your response. Because even though the local folks may be committed, the folks they report to may not have the same point of reference that you do. So the answer is we hope it continues. We don't hope. We know it will continue to grow with some of the steps that we're taking, and we're going to continue to do it. We're doing as much outreach as we can. We hope with the expansion of our staff, we're able to do more. Ms. Donaldson?
Mayor Brenda, given that you're at the Elyria Rotary Club in 2018, would you like to talk about Cascade Park?
Sure. So thank you. Oh my goodness, I knew there'd be something I forgot. So we are so pleased during Rotary's, it is included in the improvement number down there, but the bottom line is, as part of Rotary's 100th birthday celebration, our kids and community are going to benefit from this beautiful universal design playground in Cascade. And who from Rotary here is spearheading that? Greg. Greg, you want to stand up and say something about the park?
It will be inclusive, that is, for children with disabilities as well as all children to play together. It will be the first public inclusive playground in the area, and only the second one in the area.
Yeah.
Funding goals, and thank you for all the great.
Mention what the funding goal was. I did. People need to know how much money you guys are putting into that.
$350,000.
So thank you very much for that investment, and it's a wonderful way to celebrate a wonderful birthday. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, Mayor Brenda, being a citizen of Elyria, I've been here for about 8 years, and I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure and honor to be a citizen here, and to know that you guys are moving forward with your thinking as far as how you want the city to move. More of a bug in your ear with the line of business that my company is in. We do a lot of the aerial, unmanned stuff. that there is a big move for autonomous vehicles and research for that. There are a lot of companies looking for places to come in and test their material and their equipment. Has Elyria or will Elyria look to try and attract some of those companies to come in, test, and bring the tax to the city?
Sure, absolutely. And in fact, we have been contacted by a few of those folks, and we started internally. It's not an area of my expertise, but I'm learning as well. I know that it's the unmanned vehicle or drones and other things. I'm having a hard time hearing you. So we're talking about drones and other type of equipment. Our safety forces have actually been approached, and we've been looking at how a drone support system for our safety forces could potentially be effective for both our fire and our police departments. So we're learning internally about that, but I agree. I think that is one of those emerging areas, just like on-demand transportation is. And if you have connections or can be of assistance to us in learning more about it or making connections, we would certainly welcome it. Anyone else? Well, thank you so very much, everyone. I appreciate your time.
It is our tradition at Elyria Rotary to present a book to the library in the speaker's name, and Mayor Brenda has graciously agreed to sign our book for this week. And I thank our friends at the library for supporting us on this project week after week. This week's book, Kathy Runzer, where are you? Oh, she did a great job. Kathy picked this week's book. The title is Dear Girl, a celebration of wonderful, smart, beautiful you. So I'm sure you'll like to add your signature to this book.
Thank you so much. You have a pen?
Yes. I'm waiting for Lynn to come up and get the book to take it back.
We're all about girl power. All right, thank you. You're welcome.
And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
Oh, sure, thank you. Appreciate it.